Hello and welcome once more to the wonderful wacky world of Pobble Live. Now we are just going to wait probably just a minute today to see if anybody is going to join us. I'm assuming with it being the hottest day of the year so far that a lot of children are out playing, having fun and enjoying the weather with their family, which I absolutely promote. So if you are going out and you do miss this live, do not worry. That is absolutely fine because it will be saved on our YouTube channel and you will be able to watch this video back later. Also, because it is a very, very hot day today, Pobble Live is going to be relatively short this week. I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm not going to take too much feedback from the video. As I say, I imagine most people will be watching this a little bit later on. But we will still do our Pobble Prize draw. And if you put a comment into the chat, or if you're watching this much more likely after it has gone live, if you put a comment on the video, you will be entered into next week's Pobble Prize draw. So what are we writing about this week? Well, this week we are looking at superheroes. We are looking at superheroes. Now, I can see, and rightly so, as I said, oops, let's just turn that off. I can see, and rightly so, that we don't have lots and lots and lots of viewers this week. We've got 5 people on, which is actually, in this weather, probably more than I expected. You made it on somehow. Wonderful. Guests aren't here yet. Hi, Mr. Keeling. Wonderful. It's good if you have joined us. Today, as I say, I expect a lot more people will probably view this after because it is really, really warm. And we're just going to keep it short today so we can get out, we can have a little bit of fun whilst we've got some lovely weather. Also because it is boiling in this classroom. As some of my children in this classroom will know, it's absolutely boiling and I am cooking. So I'm going to go through this quickly too so that I can go and cool off. But the key thing is today, our Pobble Live, we are writing about superheroes, not necessarily Marvel superheroes, not necessarily superheroes that have been created, but you are coming up with your own superheroes. My classroom is hot too. Hulk, yeah, you can see him in the background there, looking like he's about to pick up Thor's hammer. Mr. Keeling, I'm so sorry I won't be here. Yes, I saw your message. Don't worry. As I said, you can always watch this back later, and I understand it's very, very warm today, so people will be going out, people will be playing, and I encourage you to make the most of the sunshine as long as you are wearing your sun lotion and you are staying safe in that sun. Remember to take plenty of breaks, remember to keep hydrated, and remember to stay in the shade. All right, let's have a chat about what we're doing today and what the write is going to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to design our own superhero. And part of that is going to be a bit like a character description. And we'll have a look at the features of a character description right at the very end. But before that, we're going to look at a couple of different things. And we're going to focus on 2 features tonight. The first one is parenthesis. And the second is a relative clause. The reason we're looking at 2 is actually these are not mutually exclusive. They don't have to exist on their own. In fact, they can be combined to create one super sentence. They can be used on their own if you want to use them on their own, but you can actually use parenthesis with relative clause or vice versa, relative clause with parenthesis. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and embed this throughout our learning, and I'm just going to give some examples throughout that feature those in them. And I'll talk about them a little bit later about exactly what they are and how they add to a sentence. But first, we're going to look up what our character description, I guess we're going to call it, is going to be. It's not really a character. I mean, it is but we're kind of going further than just your generic character description. So what are we going to do? Well, we'll break it down and we'll talk about different things. The first thing we're going to talk about your superhero. And this is where I want you to start thinking now. If you're watching after, which you really should because it's lovely weather, go and enjoy it. If you're watching this after, pause the video now, and I would like you to think of a superhero. Now, it might be one that exists or it might be one that you make up, but I want you to start imagining a superhero in your mind. Start building a superhero that maybe you would want to be, or maybe just one that you just think is really, really cool. And you can, as I say, choose a superhero that already exists. Right. We're going to make this character more realistic, because the problem with character descriptions, and especially when we do very quick character descriptions, is we don't always make that character seem as real as possible. And what we're going to do today is we're going to add in little written parts that improve our character. It gives us more information about our character and makes our character seem more realistic than just fiction, which is kind of a skill of a good writer. They can make a character relatable to the reader so that the reader really likes the character, or the opposite. They could make the character hated by the reader. That's good too, eliciting emotion from the reader. But they make those characters, no matter how bizarre or otherworldly, they make them seem realistic, like it could happen. That could be a real character. So we're going to delve into that. The first thing we're going to do to create our own superhero, or choosing one that you really, really like if you can't think of one of your own, is we are going to give them an interesting backstory. So the first thing is a backstory. And the backstory really is all about who that superhero was before they became the person in the cape, the person in the mask, the superhero. And generally, it's broken down into several kind of areas. One is that perhaps they are an alien. Maybe they're not from this world. You've got your superheroes like Superman, who traveled from Krypton. And he was an alien. So his power came from the fact that he was an alien. He was getting used to Earth's gravity, which meant that he could fly. I don't know why that works, but it does. He got heat vision. He was super strong because he came from another planet and he had talents that people on Earth didn't. So one backstory might be that your character is an alien, but aliens aren't the most relatable of characters. So that one might not seem as realistic as others. Another backstory is an accident. So one way that writers give their superhero powers is by accident. I'm thinking Spider-Man. For example, Spider-Man taking a photograph whilst he was taking a photograph at, I can't remember what the laboratories were called. Oscorp, that was it. He was taking a photograph at Oscorp. While he was taking a photograph, a genetically modified spider landed on his hand, bit him, and then he got the superpowers transferred from the spider. So, alien, Superman, or an accident? Absolutely. Normal person, bit by a spider. And this is more realistic, and I've just seen it there in the chat. This is more realistic because he never wanted to be a hero. Spider-Man didn't want to be a superhero, didn't want this responsibility, this power. But the accident thrust this normal person into being a superhero, and they've got to deal with that. So that is a good backstory to have. Another example of a good backstory is tragedy. So to make a character realistic, sometimes the writer will write a tragedy. Yeah. So for example, if we look at Batman, sadly, Batman lost his parents, didn't he? And if we look at Spider-Man, he sadly lost his uncle. And because of these negative experiences, because they when they were children or when they were young because they experienced crime, they stood up to crime and became a hero. And it really played on their moral values. They overcame it. Absolutely lovely word. Really good answer there. Yes, they overcame that tragedy. They overcame the odds and they decided to be good. Now, if you can think of your own backstory, that's absolutely fine. This is just 3 areas that I might pick for mine. I might say that my superhero is an alien. I might say that they were bitten by accident. They were changed by accident, or I might say it was a tragedy. But when you are writing your backstory, please give as much detail as you can about the events that led up to to them as the hero now. That's what we're doing there. And this is where we're going to pause because I'm going to give an example sentence using the spider, for example, that bit Peter Parker. A radioactive spider which had escaped from a nearby cage bit Peter Parker and transferred and metamorphosized, and because it didn't transfer, it was still alive, and gave him superhuman skills. So what have I done? Well, I've just written a sentence that's part of Peter Parker's backstory. Now, his backstory, normal human person, absolutely. Miles Morales, a lot more popular since, what was the film? Spider-Man, something about multiverse or across the multiverse or something like that. Much more popular since then and has appeared in the Spider-Man games, Miles Morales. Really cool really cool hero. But we're talking about the Peter Parker one here, and he's been bitten by the spider. What have I done then? Well, I've added 2 things. I've added them together, as I've said. I've added brackets, and I've added a relative clause using a relative pronoun. How have I done that? Well, parenthesis really is an aside. It is giving extra information to a sentence by adding in a subordination or an aside, just little bits of extra information that supports the main clause. How do we do it? Well, it can go at the end of the sentence or it can be embedded into the middle of the sentence. But usually there are 3 ways to use parentheses. One is to use brackets, and that is my preferred method, which I've used here. So here's my extra information. Do not need it for the main clause, which had escaped from a nearby cage. Lovely. That is the extra information, but it's not needed to complete the main clause. The main clause is here. A radioactive spider bit Peter Parker and gave him superhuman skills. That works on its own as a main clause, the full main sentence. Nuclear, yeah. So maybe they were using nuclear power or what does radioactive mean? Thank you for answering that. Radioactive, it means that it was, it's been around certain chemicals that makes it dangerous. So a radioactive spider, which had escaped from a nearby cage, bit Peter Parker and gave him superhuman skills. I've used brackets as a parenthesis, but that's not the only way that I could have done it. I could have used dashes to indicate the extra information like that. Or what I could have done is I could have used commas to surround it. Either way, I am adding parenthesis there. I'm adding a parenthesis there to add extra information. Like Marie Curie, yeah, she worked with different various radioactive substances sadly ended her life prematurely. But through her studies, found a way to was it X-rays with Marie Curie, or was it? I think it was something to do with radiotherapy, maybe for helping to battle disease. But yes, that kind of thing. The other thing that I've done is my parenthesis is actually a relative clause. So what I've done and what I want you to focus on today is 3 relative words, relative pronouns. I want you to either use the word who, the word that, or the word which to add in your relative clauses. So Peter Parker, who was keen of photography, was bitten by a radioactive spider. So the who, they're referring to him and adding a relative clause in the middle, which could also be parenthesis. Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider that quickly scurried away. Peter Parker was in a lab which was full of different types of animals and was bitten by a radioactive spider. So a relative clause is pretty straightforward. It's using one of these relative pronouns to add extra information either to the end of a sentence or embedded somewhere in the middle. And I would generally, if you're embedding it in the middle, use brackets, because that's a very simple way of doing it. Or if you're well versed in using commas, to do it that way. So challenge for you, create an interesting backstory for your character and try and add in a relative clause, preferably with parentheses. Okay, moving on from that, this is fun part. Select and describe your powers. Because it's a superhero, you can talk about your powers and then you can describe them. And you can do that again using a relative clause and parenthesis for extra information. But let's have a go at some. Spider lamb was born. Both spider and a lamb could transform into a lamb at any time. I'm not sure how the spider lamb would be a superhero, but it's certainly weird, so I like it. Invisible. Yeah, so one power. Invisible. So they could be invisible. They could make themselves invisible. What other powers could they have? If you're in the chat, put it in. Super strength, maybe. The power of flight. Invincibility. Invincibility. What else? Yeah, so that would be invincibility, or immortality, maybe. So that they can't die, they're immortal. Electric, yeah, so can fire thunderbolts, thinking like the Greek gods there. So thunder, the power of thunder. In fact, the power of weather altogether. So they might be able to control the weather. What else could they do? Teleportation. Yeah, I like the exclamation marks. Teleportation. So they can go from one place to somewhere else very, very quickly. Another one, is telekinesis. So being able to kind of project things into other people's minds or read minds. That might be one as well. Anything else? Might put the elements because I put weather. But maybe they can control fire and earth and wind and water. Lasers, so maybe they can, certainly like Superman has heat ray, so you know it might have lasers or heat vision. Superman had X-ray vision, didn't he? So he could see through walls. Elasticity as well, like Elastigirl from The Incredibles. Speed, super speed, like the Flash. Or like Bolt. Shape-shifting. Oh, that is a cool one. Shape-shifting. Absolutely. I think that power, shape-shifting, is one that I would want. That would be a really cool power. Being able to take on any form You know, you could be anyone or anything if you could shapeshift. And I think that'd be really, really cool. You know, if you needed to fit into a really tight space, you could turn into a mouse. If you wanted to be really strong, you know, you could turn into a very, very strong, muscular person to do something, or the Hulk, or whatever. Really, you think of it, shapeshifter, you can turn into it. I think that would be pretty cool. What else we got? Time manipulation. Yeah, so the ability to turn back time. There's Doctor Strange that could open the multiverses, so almost like magic or a magician. There are lots and lots and lots of different powers that you could give your hero. But we are pairing it up with that relative clause. So let me just take Thunder. And I'm going to give my hero a name. I'm going to call him Vanquish. Like to vanquish your foes, to get rid of your foes. So I'm going to call Vanquish. Vanquish has the power of electricity, which was passed down from his father. Vanquish has the power of electricity, which was passed down from his father. And that would be fine. Adding that parenthesis to the end, I could do a full stop there. Or I could carry the sentence on with and or another conjunction, depending on what I want to add. But key thing here is I've added extra information again to that superpower. Vanquish Della Strong. Yeah, I like that. Can we use semicolons? Absolutely, you can use semicolons. If you, and that's something we've just picked up in 5. If you want to use a semicolon, you can do it to add a related idea. Or you could start a sentence if you really want to show off. You could start a sentence with a conjunctive starters like however or therefore, comma. So absolutely, yes, please do feel free to use those features too. But here, key feature is I've used parenthesis again. So I've added extra information in brackets this time and the relative pronoun, which, however, remember, you can also use that and you can use which, that, and who today. That's what I want you to focus on, which, that, and who. But good place to get it is your backstory, as we've said, or when you're discussing your superpower. Right, moving on from superpower then, making our character even more realistic. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about their moral values. So what do they believe in above all else? And usually you will find that whatever the superhero's backstory is, that might relate to their moral values. So let's look at Batman. Sadly lost his parents. He thinks crime is wrong, that people shouldn't be committing crimes because crime led to his parents' death. So he has strong moral values when it comes to confronting crime, and that makes sense. But, you know, what moral values does your superhero have? What do they believe in above all else? Like Superman, for example, believes in truth, justice, and the American way. Now, Superman, originally created in Action Comics, is an American superhero, and that's why this part was in it. And it's quite a long time ago as well. And there was this belief that the American way stood for truth, value, family values, respect, and all of these good things. So when Superman, and this is, I think, in the Superman movies as well, some of them anyway, when he would talk about his morals, why do you do what you do? He said that he believed in truth, justice, and the American way. But certainly believing in truth is one moral. Truth is important, might be driven by truth, may be driven by justice. So that is to confront crime, and certainly Batman believes in justice. And a lot of superheroes actually do believe in justice. Respect, absolutely. A good moral value to have. We should respect each other. And for a superhero, making sure that people do respect each other and everyone is treated fairly. Absolutely. Work ethic. Absolutely. Good. That's a nice one. Work ethic. Maybe the superhero works tirelessly, doesn't give up, keeps on going because they have a good work ethic. They believe in a lot of hard work. What else do we have? Not to give up. So that could be R, respect, value, resilience. That could also be perseverance as well, keeping on going. Being trustworthy would come under truth, wouldn't it? But yes, being a trustworthy person. Standing up for people. So standing up for people means trying to make sure that everything is fair. I think that is about fairness. And I know I have a few friends who are police officers. And in fact, actually, my wife, her father, so my father-in-law, he is an ex-police officer. He used to be a police officer. And one thing that he believed in very much when he was a police officer, still does, and one thing that a lot of my police friends believe in is fairness. They believe that things should be fair. And actually, one of the reasons that they became police officers is because they wanted things to be fair for everyone. So that, fight against injustice. So that's kind of around here, isn't it? So if you believe morally in justice, they would fight against injustice. Absolutely. What else? Positive, being positivity, happiness. Yeah. And some people really believe in happiness, really believe that life should center around happiness. We should work our hardest to be happy, because if we're not happy, then what are we? Peace, absolutely believe in peace, that people should get along. Now, obviously, people argue sometimes, but when we talk about world peace, we talk more about not harming each other and living in a world without wars. Making life happy again. Empathy, yeah, our respect values. Certainly things that a superhero would have. So if we look at them, we've got excellence. They believe that they should be an excellent role model. Superheroes would do that. Resilience, keeping on going, absolutely. Self-awareness, understanding. A superhero needs to understand themselves and why they're doing things so that they know that they're making the right decisions. Because with great power, as they say in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Empathy would absolutely, they need to understand other people, to help other people and to treat other people with respect. Communication, they need to get across their message, why they're helping, why they are doing what they're doing. And teamwork, absolutely. Being a superhero doesn't have to be just all on your own. You can work with the police, you can work with other superheroes. And certainly in recent times, when I was a kid, superhero movies were just literally that one superhero. But now we've got these massive multiverses where everyone works together. Equality, absolutely. Great word. Making sure that everything is equal. And that relates to fairness, doesn't it? Yeah, everybody gets that same deal. Everybody is looked after and everybody is treated with that same respect. Wonderful values. And there, again, is where you can start building sentences here with subordinations explaining why. So you can tell me what your superhero's moral values are, but then you can pair it up and you say why. Vanquish believes that everybody should respect one another because, and then add in more information. Why does he believe that? Vanquish believes in happiness for all, which stems from his own experience when he wasn't happy. And again, I'm adding in that relative pronoun because you can extend these words with which, these sentences with which, who, or that, or by adding parentheses to get in extra information, or just subordinations, or as been mentioned, you could add semicolon for related sentences. And if you really want to show off, you can start some of your sentences with conjunctives, with conjunctive words like however or therefore. But 3 things we've done so far. And that is create an interesting backstory. Give your character an origin story. Where are they from? And how does that affect them? 2, give them powers, make the powers interesting, describe them, get in those key adjectives to describe the power, to describe the electric, but don't skip out on the parenthesis, don't skip out on adding further information with a relative clause, using those words, which, who, that, to extend. Then talk about their moral values, all of that language we've just had up. And if you're not watching live, you can skip back and look at that language. He's from a lonely city in Brazil. Oh, okay. And where did he move to, or is he still in Brazil? Is there what is he fighting for? Yeah, and what is going to happen to him in Brazil that makes him want to fight crime or want to become a superhero? Because not all superheroes have powers. Remember, Batman didn't have any powers. He was just incredibly wealthy. Okay, this one. What weakness do they have? Interesting question. What is their kryptonite? Now, kryptonite has actually become part of the English language now. So people actually say, what is your kryptonite, when they talk about weaknesses, because it's so well known that kryptonite is Superman's weakness. Whenever he is around, and Supergirl, I think, as well, it's her weakness too. Whenever they are around, kryptonite, which is a piece of their home planet that's become radioactive, there's that word again, radioactive, and can now drain their powers and can even kill them. So when we say, what's your kryptonite, what we're actually saying is, what is your weakness? And kryptonite is Superman's weakness. But that's not the only weakness that some heroes might have. So have a think. What weaknesses could your superhero have? Because it makes them more realistic if they can be defeated. Even if you make them invincible most of the time, giving them a weakness makes them more relatable, more human. Sadness. That one is sad. Yeah, sadness. Oh dear. It's okay to feel sad, but maybe not for this hero. That would be awful, wouldn't it? You can't feel sad. Having to keep happy all the time. Oh dear. What else we got? So we got sadness, silver, beef, maybe, slime, rich people. I don't know. I don't know how you would be weak to that. You know, think about actual weaknesses that might affect. Another saying that we have is, what's their Achilles heel? And when we talk about Achilles heel, we mean weakness. And that's because of the fable of Achilles, who his only weakness was his heel. And when that was discovered, he had an arrow fired into his heel and he died. He was defeated. But have a think, what weakness can your superhero have? And then can you extend whatever you come up with, again, with the words which, who, or that? Yeah. Maybe Lex Luthor is a villain who always tries to introduce Superman to kryptonite because he knows that it will defeat him. Kryptonite is a weakness of Superman, which will strip him of his powers and could kill him, or that may kill him. Extending your sentences with those relative pronouns. So what have we looked at so far? We have looked at a backstory, a good backstory for your hero. We've looked at your superpowers, what they are, describe them. We've looked at their moral standpoint, their values, and we've looked at what weaknesses they may have. Those are going to be your core things. Those are going to be the main bits that you write. And those are going to be the bits where you get in maybe the heat, then maybe that's a weakness. Those are going to be the areas where you try and get that parenthesis, where you try and get those relative pronouns, and where you get those other features like semicolon related ideas. Here are some extensions. This is basic character description stuff, but still important. And this is really where you would gather your language, your descriptive language. So I'm just very quickly going to talk about other things that you should do. Once you've described the superhero's backstory, powers, moral values, and the weaknesses that they may have. I would draw your superhero at this point, and then I would surround your superhero with words that fit under each of these. So the first one is appearance. Think about what your superhero looks like, not just what they look like, but what they wear and the things that they may carry, and create a list of all of those things. Yeah. Personality. What are they like as a person? Are they brave? Are they strong? Are they caring? Are they kind? What are they like when defeated? Are they resilient? And get those values in there as well. So appearance, what do they look like? Personality, what are they like as a person? Another way that you can extend them as a person is you can talk about their likes and dislikes. What do they enjoy doing? And it can be normal things too. And what don't they like? What things really kind of upset your superhero? And finally, the actions. What kinds of things would we find your superhero doing? And as I say, these are basic features of a character description, and you can draw and encircle your character with these once you've done your 4 paragraphs about these: your powers, your weakness, your moral values, and your interesting backstory. Once you've drawn your character and you've surrounded it by this language, maybe you will dip into the word bank, and maybe you'll want to use some of these words to up level or to edit your sentence right at the very end. So I'm just going to go through this word bank now and maybe just talk through some of them. So astonishing, very shocking, but in a good way. So that might be one that you use for your superhero. Astounding, brave, brilliant, cunning. So kind of very smart, very clever, a little bit crafty maybe, but cunning. Yeah, smart. Daredevil. So do they take risks? Yeah. Do they do things that are dangerous for the good of mankind, for the good of humankind, to protect other people? Are they a bit of a daredevil? Sorry. Elegant. Maybe they are elegant. Maybe they dress elegantly. Maybe they do things in an elegant manner. Elastic, so that's kind of relating to the ability to stretch. Maybe your hero has that stretch ability like Elastigirl, and there was one of the Fantastic Four, I think, that could do that. Fierce. Just because they're good doesn't mean that they can't be fierce, can't stand up for what they believe in, can't get angry, can't tell the villains to stop. That doesn't make them not good. In fact, part of being a good hero and having strong moral values means to stand up, to fight crime, to be brave, to be confident. Gargantuan, very big, a good word for it. Gracious, so if they're defeated, they're not too down about it. They'll get back up. They'll dust themselves off. They'll be fair. Humble. Yes, and not really showing off all the time. I mean, you might want to do a superhero that shows off. That's up to you. But generally, superheroes are quite humble, quite gracious. Those words come together. Incredible. Justice, which we've had. Kind. A legend. Something that is remembered and thought about and spoken of after they're gone. Magnificent, marvelous, mighty. So mighty referring to strength, perhaps. Nebulous. Now, this is a word that means something that's indistinct, something almost like gassy, that's not really very clear. And maybe if your superhero isn't really of this earth, an alien, they might be a bit indistinct and nebulous and kind of weird and strange, and you can't really explain what they are. So that might be a word that you get in there. Outstanding, so really good at things. Purpose, because you might want to talk about the hero's purpose. Resilient, not giving up, we've spoken about. Stupendous, triumphant, unusual. Maybe your hero is a bit weird, a bit bizarre, especially if they're an alien. Valor, kind of bravery, especially in battle. Wondrous, world renowned, so known all over the world. I hope that language helps. I hope you can get in some parentheses and some relative pronouns, and I hope you have some fun doing that. Finally, just before we go, we are going to draw our raffle. So I'm going to open that up. We're going to choose a name out from here. And we're going to take that. And we are going to open it up. And our winner for today is, and don't forget, please go to Mrs. Flanagan and Mrs. Jones for your prize. Our winner is, oh, and if you've put any comments in the chat today, you'll be added in for next week. Our winner for this week is sadly not here, had to leave early, but this person here. Okay. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for joining in. I hope you have fun with creating your superhero, whether you're watching now or after. Don't forget, if you're watching after, put a comment under the video and you'll be entered into the prize draw next week. I'd love to see some of these superheroes so we can put them on our wall on our Pobble display in school. Thank you for joining me. And as ever, even on the hottest day of the year, keep pobbling.